17. Alignment as competitive advantage. In most industries, competitive advantage is spoken of in concrete terms: technology, price, innovation, speed, efficiency, market penetration. These factors matter, of course. But as global organizations grow more complex and interdependent, a new differentiator has emerged, one that rivals the importance of strategy itself: emotional alignment. For years, leaders believed consistency came from structure, shared systems, shared processes, shared metrics. But structure alone cannot create coherence. Two teams can follow identical procedures and still deliver entirely different experiences. Two regions can apply the same policies and still carry opposing interpretations. Two leaders can give the same message and still influence behavior in contradictory ways. The real differentiator lies not in the operational blueprint, but in the degree to which the organization interprets meaning predictably. Emotional alignment is fast becoming one of the few competitive advantages that cannot be easily copied. A competitor can replicate your strategy. They can reverse engineer your product. They can match your prices. They can even hire your people. But they cannot easily replicate the internal emotional architecture that allows meaning to travel cleanly across borders. One global logistics company discovered this when competing against a rival with superior infrastructure. On paper, the competitor had every advantage: faster delivery networks, more warehouse space, and deeper financial resources. Yet the smaller company consistently outperformed them during operational disruptions. Why? Because when crises emerged, their teams didn't scatter into emotional divergence. They stayed aligned. They interpreted leadership tone consistently. They escalated uniformly. They adjusted priorities with shared understanding. While the competitor spent hours clarifying misinterpretations, this company moved with clarity from the first moment. Their advantage was not efficiency. It was emotional coherence. Another organization, a multinational consulting firm, noticed a similar pattern. In environments where client needs changed rapidly, their teams responded with such internal synchronization that clients described interacting with one global mind. Consultants from different continents delivered consistent interpretation of priorities, risk tolerance, and expectations. There was no need to re-explain context or translate tone across teams. Clients felt as though they were working with a single entity rather than a collection of offices. This experience became their competitive identity, and it emerged from emotional alignment, not technical superiority. Competitors attempted to imitate their methods, yet none succeeded. They could copy the structure, but not the architecture. Emotional alignment cannot be borrowed. It must be cultivated. One of the most striking examples came from a global automotive manufacturer that transformed its customer satisfaction ratings within 2 years. The turnaround was not achieved through new tools or training programs, but through emotional stabilization. Leaders recalibrated their tone across regions. Urgency was clarified. Escalation became consistent. Regional emotional histories were addressed. Trust increased. And gradually, customer-facing teams stopped improvising emotional interpretation. They began delivering a unified brand experience because they were living within a unified emotional climate. Customers did not describe the company as more aligned internally. They described it as more professional, more trustworthy, more reliable, and more human. These attributes, once considered brand outcomes, were in fact emotional alignment outcomes. The connection becomes even clearer when observing organizations that lack emotional alignment. They move unpredictably. Conflicts escalate unevenly. Teams make decisions based on fear or instinct rather than collective intent. Crisis responses become fragmented. Customer experiences vary across regions. Stakeholders sense inconsistency even when operations are solid. Markets lose confidence because they cannot predict the organization's behavior. Reputation weakens not because the organization lacks capability, but because it lacks emotional coherence. This fragmentation carries a financial cost, often an invisible one. When global teams interpret messages inconsistently, project timelines slip, execution becomes slower, compliance weakens, and customer trust erodes. The organization spends energy correcting misalignment rather than creating value. Drift becomes expensive. A global software company quantified this effect during a large project. They discovered that misinterpretation, not technical issues, accounted for 40% of delays. When they improved emotional alignment, delays dropped by half. They had solved a business problem through an emotional mechanism. And the improvement was not marginal. It fundamentally shifted their competitive positioning. Emotional coherence also enhances innovation. When teams interpret leadership intent consistently, they take risks more confidently. They speak openly. They challenge assumptions without fear. They understand where boundaries lie. Innovation requires psychological safety, and psychological safety requires emotional clarity. An organization without alignment cannot innovate at scale because teams are too busy deciphering tone, urgency, and meaning. A global pharmaceutical company saw this firsthand during accelerated vaccine development. They discovered that emotionally aligned teams made faster decisions. Not reckless decisions, faster ones. Their interpretation of leadership signals was so stable that they did not need to verify meaning repeatedly. Their emotional certainty allowed for operational speed. And speed, in that context, became a competitive advantage with global impact. Embedded alignment, discussed in the previous chapter, becomes a strategic resource when combined with external execution. It reduces friction. It strengthens trust. It creates predictable behavior in unpredictable contexts. It transforms global diversity from a source of misalignment into a source of resilience. It converts emotional coherence into operational excellence. One senior executive summarized it perfectly: our competitors have more resources, but we understand each other. In global environments, understanding is not sentimental. It is strategic. It determines whether an organization moves as many separate parts or as one intelligent system. It determines whether crises fracture or unify. It determines whether meaning stabilizes quickly enough to protect reputation, customers, and decision-making. It determines whether the organization becomes slower with scale or stronger with scale. This is why emotional alignment is no longer a soft advantage. It is a competitive advantage that ripples through every metric: quality, speed, safety, customer satisfaction, innovation, and brand loyalty. It shapes how effectively the organization can execute its strategy and how confidently the world can trust its actions. In the next chapter, we turn from the organization to the individual, to the leaders who must sustain this architecture. What internal shifts allow leaders to manage emotional alignment not episodically, but habitually? What enables them to carry coherence into every interaction, even as the environment changes?